Hi guys, my name is Liveradinithi and welcome back to my channel. It's a very stressful month. I don't want to talk about it. I'm not gonna deal with it. But the good news is I have been reading a lot to just distract myself and it's been going great. So now I have a lot of books that I want to talk to you about. So let's just get on with this wrap up. This is everything that I have been reading since my last wrap up, which I think has been in July or something. So let's just talk about it all. So the first one is Get a Life Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbett. This is a reread. I'm not gonna go too much into detail about this. I may have wrapped this up in some video last year when I first read it. It's good. It's a very nice cozy romance. I enjoyed it, and yeah, I think I gave it like 4 stars. It's definitely the favorite of the 3 books that are from the Brown Sisters trilogy. So I really enjoyed it. It was a very cozy romance. So next I read John Green's The Anthropocene Reviewed, which has been definitely one of my favorite books I've read this year, and I had a really great time just listening to the audiobook and enjoying it. I also listened to his podcast where he talks about the same thing, and the book and the podcast are a little bit different, so you have more. I think he made the podcast after he wrote the book, or one of the two, I just can't remember. There are like slight differences to the stories that he tells, and there are like new content that's not in the book that you will find in the podcast. So it's good. The idea is what he does is he takes these like very random things and he reviews them. He would take Diet Dr. Pepper, and which is only relatable to Americans because I've never had it and I think it's only available in America. I don't know. So anyway, yeah, he takes that and he reviews it, or he would review he would review the most random things like the QWERTY keyboard, or the Halley's Comet, or Halley's Comet, whatever, and the penguins of Madagascar. So like very different fun things that he will review and rate them out of I think it's 5 stars. So yeah, that was a fun read. It was very informative, very intuitive. I really like John Green. I like the way he thinks. I like the way he speaks. I like the thoughts that goes in his head. It's very interesting. So yeah, I highly recommend you pick it up if you want like a non-fiction that is not a memoir or it's not a self-help book, but just a very fun read, but it's also informative and educational. So then I picked up Babel by R.F. Kuang. This is one of my most anticipated reads, and I think I mentioned this earlier in another video, but this is a DNF for me. I tried so hard to read this. It basically put me back into my reading slump. It is horrible. I'm sorry, but I don't like this at all. I don't normally say this about books, but no, this is not for me. This is dark academia. I thought maybe R.F. Kuang's writing will finally make me like dark academia, but yeah, no, it just made it worse, if anything. I don't even know how to explain this book. It's about this kid in China who is taken to America by this professor, and he is enrolled at Oxford, and from there on it's all about languages and just the life at Oxford and all that shit. I just didn't care about it enough to finish this book. It's very boring for me, and I don't like the writing style at all. So it's a little hard to imagine that the person who wrote The Poppy War, which is like one of my favorite series, wrote this book. No. It's probably, it's definitely one of the worst books I've read this year, and I'm very disappointed to say that because I pre-ordered this book. I was so excited to like this. I really wanted to like it and read it. Just read it and like it. But yeah, it just didn't happen. So then I listened to the audiobook for Letters to a Young Poet by Raina Maria Raika? Not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but yes, that was actually a very nice. So these are like a collection of letters that the artist sends to this student in like a military academy, and it's actually I had no idea about this poet. I never read any of his poems or his artistic work, but despite all that, I still enjoyed the letters and I still enjoyed like the writing style, and it was very quick. It was very fun. And very emotional. It's a very raw representation of like your own feelings and just where you are in your artistic journey and how you find inspiration in like just the most random things. And yeah, it was very nice to read about a creator and how their mind works. Yeah, it was quick, it was fun. I gave it 4 stars. So after that, I read Daisy Darker, which is Alice Feeney's newest release. I actually picked this up very early this year, and I put it down because I was not in the mood to read it. And I'm so glad I did that, because I was not enjoying it then, but I loved it now when I finished it. I think it was last month when I finished the book. I gave it 5 out of 5. It is just as good as Rock, Paper, Scissors, if not even better. I've been recommending it to everybody I know, and I've been asking them to read it because it's Alice Feeney at her finest. And it's about this family. It's like a very dysfunctional family who goes to their grandmother's mansion, like estate, and there's a tide coming in, and they are stuck in that house for more than 24 hours until the tide goes back down, and then they can leave. So during that time, a lot of things happen. If you know Agatha Christie's and Then There Were None, the story is very much inspired by that, even down to like the poem. So all of that is there. So if you know the story, you know what will happen. You might not know how it ends, but yeah, the ending I honestly didn't see coming. But it was a good ending. I really enjoyed it. It was very thrilling. It was very atmospheric. It was the characters who created the tension, which I notice with a lot of Alice Feeney's books, which I don't see with other authors. Like, they usually tend to use scenarios and like cliffhangers in each chapter to create the tension, but with her, she does that by writing really good characters and very unreliable narrators, untrustworthy characters. So that I really enjoy anytime I read one of her books. So Daisy Darker, it's definitely right up there on my top 10 for this year. And I can't give away the story because, like I said, if you know And Then There Were None, it's very much similar to that. It's about this family and something happens while they were stuck in that mansion. So yeah, I highly recommend you give it a read because it's a wild ride. So then I also read Carrie Soto's Back, which is Taylor Jenkins' newest release, and this I gave 5 out of 5. I think I preferred this to Malibu Rising. This is very much Taylor Jenkins' read when she was writing Daisy Jones and Evelyn Hugo, and part of the reason why is that this, unlike Malibu Rising where you have like multiple characters that you have to focus on, this only talks about Carrie Soto, and it's all about her coming out of retirement from playing tennis to defend her title, and she's like, I think she's like 37 years old right now. So it's all about her getting back into that and falling in love with like the tennis and why she started in the first place, and the competitiveness and just her ferocious energy of Carrie Soto is amazing to read. I love to read about like characters like that, especially female characters who are just so driven and passionate and would do anything to defend what they love and who they love. And yeah, just it was such a wild ride. I loved it. I might reread this again and tab it because there were so many scenes that I really liked, especially when Carrie Soto is like, when Carrie's alone and vulnerable and what she thinks about, and there's so much going on in her head that she doesn't express, which is very relatable. And I also loved her relationship with her father, which is a very important relationship you have in the book. You do have your flashbacks in like very Taylor Jenkins Reid style from like when she was at the height of her fame and how she started out, and now the present day when she is coming out of retirement to play one last time. So yeah, without spoiling much, it is a great book, it's a great ride, it's very fast paced, and this actually got me out of my reading slump if you watch that vlog. So then I listened to the audiobook for Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough. I've been hearing about this book since last year, and also the TV show came out, and so many people have been telling me to watch this show or read the book, and I just never got around to it until last month. I finally did it. It is such a mindfuck, okay? I read the book and I watched the show, and I have to say, I think the show is actually better than the book. The book is great, I gave it 4 stars, but if I were to rate the TV show, I would rate it like 5 out of 5 because I think the performances were just phenomenal, and the tension and like the events that was happening, it was everything, it was word for word what was happening in the book. I don't think there was anything different. But yeah, the TV show was actually it was actually even better. But in terms of like the story, it's what was that? I started it. I wasn't expecting much from it because I thought it was just like another generic your everyday thriller, because it reads like a Harlan Coben thriller where pieces of her or the stranger. So how the story starts is that she goes out on just like a meetup with a friend, and the friend cancels last minute while she's actually at the bar, and she meets a stranger who like they share like this very who instantly have like a chemistry with her, and they get along really well. And at the end of the night, he kisses her, and then he just runs off, right? And then she goes to work the next day to find out that the person who kissed her is actually her new boss, and he's married. So the story picks up from there, where she starts having an affair with him, and also she meets his wife very randomly on the road, and she starts to become best friends with her, like really close friends. At one point, she tells this other friend they both of them are happier with me than they are with each other. So that's basically the story, where they have like marital problems, like very marital problems it's an understatement to what they're going through. So I'm not gonna say anything else. Okay, just go into this story without knowing anything. And there are so many things about this book that I want to mention, but I don't want to, because if I do mention it, it's giving away the excitement and the enjoyment of the book. So there are like specific things that you will find in the book and in the show, which they've done really well. All I can say is there are like dreaming aspects of it, right? Which I found very interesting and just so fucked up to read about, but it was fun. I had a great time reading the book. I immediately started the show after, and it was even better than the reading experience. I gave it 4 out of 5 because of the plot. Like, even though I did enjoy it as a thriller, when you take it as a thriller, it's exactly what you want. It's fast paced. It's a mind fuck. It's great, and the characters are also great, which is something I liked. But in terms of like the plot and the story, it wasn't remarkable. It's just the way it was executed. That's what I enjoyed about it. So that's why I gave it 4 stars and not 5. However, Daisy Darker is much better in terms of like the wholesome aspect of like the story and the enjoyment. So that's why I give that 5 stars. And finally, the last book I read was The Last House on Needless Street by Katrina Ward. This is a horror, and it's been on my TBR for like a year now. I think I got this last year. I don't want to go too much into detail about this because I am going to be doing a live show with my friend about this book, where we go into like spoilers and talk about everything. But I can tell you I gave this 3 stars, especially because I did enjoy the book. It was fun. It was very confusing for like the first half of the book, and I had no idea what was going on. But if you like the movie Split, it's very much similar to that, where the story follows this serial killer who has a daughter and a cat, and they all live in this house, and you get the perspectives of each of them, including the cat, who is very religious and also gay. That is all I can tell you, because if I go into any more details, it's spoiling the book. So you have to kind of figure things out as you go along. The only thing I didn't particularly like about the book is how unnecessary the confusion was at the beginning to what was revealed at the end. It didn't have to be that ambiguous, but I still enjoyed the story. There were like moments where you just felt like, what the fuck is going on, and like very oh shit moments. But it just wasn't enough for me to rate it higher than a 3. I pick this up if you do enjoy that kind of stories. She has an ebook coming out I think next year. I might read that. It's just, yeah, it was a good book. I think I do like the mental health and the trauma aspect that they deal with in the book. That was really done well, and there's like a author's note at the end where she goes deeper into like why she wrote the book and how she found out about this particular illness and all that. So yeah, it was good, just not as good as I thought it would be, because I know a lot of people do talk about it and say that it's confusing, but confusion also has to make sense at the end, and it has to serve a purpose, which I felt like for me did not deliver. Okay guys, so that is it. That is all the books that I have been reading for the past few months. It's not a lot compared to earlier this year when I was reading a lot more. But yeah, there were some good books. If you were to read or take anything from this video, I would recommend you read Behind Your Eyes, Daisy Darker, and Carrie Soto is Back. Those are the 3 books that I would recommend. And that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Give it a thumbs up if you did, and subscribe. I hope you're here for the long run, and I'll see you soon with a new video. Bye.